You're a business leader who wants to know how to use EQ to improve your business results. Watch this video. So if anything I say in this video is useful or beneficial to you, it's going to be a pretty simple one, probably shorter than usual, but here goes. So it really isn't a contradiction to say that balancing feelings and reason, because they're really not separate from one another. It just so happens that your feelings are faster. I did a video a while ago, I think that's what it was called, Emotions Are Faster Than Reason. Put the clip here if I can find that, at least with the right name. And it is exactly what it says because of the length of the pathways in your brain, but also just because of the way your system one fast thinking is faster. The fact that it helped you survive the lion or the tiger or whatever, you didn't have time to think much. You had time to feel your feeling and then to run away, fight, or freeze. So it had to be faster, but that's never changed for us in the modern world. And this is why it's a challenge for some people in particular. You have to understand that your feelings will always outrun your reason. So you need to give a gap in time between one and the others, especially if something's really upsetting or shocking or inappropriate. Obviously, if there's an emergency, you have to act in an appropriate way for an emergency. But other than that, in most cases, it really comes down to practicing using this part of your brain, your prefrontal cortex, to help you. I can just see the background changing as the wind blows. Having your prefrontal cortex help you control the limbic system and the cerebellum, all this stuff back here, which is more of the emotional areas of your brain that are instant. But you can't just say anything you think. You can't just respond immediately to anything you feel. And most of the time, this is fine because we leave that kind of stuff at the door, but it's not always the case. And for everybody, if you want to raise your EQ, you want to improve your EQ, it really is a matter, in a sense, of thinking, or at least standing back from your emotions far enough that you can do some reasoning before you make a response. Some people are maybe naturally more good at it, more calm and just chill. But for the rest of us humans, we might have to practice at it. And of course, practicing means putting yourself either truly or artificially in situations that are challenging for you. In terms of this, I would say practicing with, say, a difficult customer, that would be better done in role play than in real terms or in a real situation. But if that real situation happens, that's a real opportunity for you. If it's you as a leader of the company, it isn't necessarily, but you still have to deal with people who are passionate human beings and may still have to deal with some challenging situations where emotions start to run high, in which case you do that. And whether that goes well or poorly, it's a really wise idea to sort of do a post-mortem, to sort of do the classic questions of what did I do well in this situation and what did I do poorly. Now, some probably obvious, but let's do them anyway. The adult version of count to 10, you could certainly literally count to 10 because it's basically the same thing. It's just an emotional regulation trick. It's to give your system, your slow thinking system two, a way to sort of catch up with your fast thinking system one that Daniel Kahneman talks about, and to let reason catch up with emotion, because emotion is always faster. That's what allowed us to survive. But an easy way to do this is just with a really long, slow, singular breath. Oftentimes, you don't even have to do it. I did it loud enough, hopefully, that the microphone can hear it. But you can usually do that. Take that long, slow, deep breath is enough time to say, okay, let's get this in check. Let's use our prefrontal cortex to regulate our emotional centers stay a little chill, get a little emotional distance from this, and respond in the most appropriate way possible. So as much as this is about your emotions, it's about regulating your emotions. So it's more system 2, because otherwise they're unregulated, childish, or 2-year-old toddler style emotions. And in fact, that's what really happens, is that front part of your brain doesn't develop or isn't fully developed until you're about 25. So if a 22 or 23 or 24-year-old says, I'm a grown-up, actually, neurologically, probably not yet. They don't know that. They don't believe it because, they're getting tired of being treated like a child. But that's actually the neurological truth of it. So for all of us who are over that age, and I just passed 55 yesterday, the day before, thereabouts, we can't say that anymore, but we still experience emotions before regulation. So we have to have a strategy. So the deep breathing, the post-mortem, and even what you could do if you want to, especially if you know the individual is challenging or the situation is going to be challenging, is you can do those things that Charles Duhigg talked about in the Smarter, Better, Faster. I always get the order of those mixed up in his book anyway. He talks about if, then, when statements. So you could say, if in the upcoming situation, when things become emotionally heated, I will take a deep breath. I will stop and take a drink. In fact, if you watch one of the old Steve Jobs videos. Now, Steve Jobs was not a nice man, and he was not good at regulating his emotions, especially when he was younger. But you see him in a video when somebody put up their hand, and this was a public forum, and he says, can't we really just admit that, Steve, you have no idea what the hell you're talking about? But he didn't speak. He was smart about this. He paused. It was probably 5 seconds anyway, which is unnaturally long in a conversation. Undid the cap to his drink, took a drink, put it down, and he goes, you're right. There are certain things I have no idea about, and continued on and managed it really well, which is interesting and telling because oftentimes in private, he didn't bother to exercise that regulation, but he had that capacity. And both of us have the capacity. So that's another thing. You can take a drink, but you make a plan, as I have called it sometimes, a plan to fail. That is, what will I do if I get in this situation? What of possible outcomes could be challenging, and what would I do to manage them? The deep breath. Pause and take a drink, because you can drink and breathe through your nose. You could combine those together. But just step back from your emotion. Think about what the best course of action is. And here's sort of a unique trick you could do too. If you literally are saying, I don't know how to respond to that, that's what you're thinking. It's pretty hard for somebody to be upset at you saying, wow, I'm not even sure how to respond to that. It's actually pretty neutral. They may take it offensively, but if literally you're just dumbfounded about what to say, admit that you're really not sure how to respond to what just happened. Probably they'll go, oh, and they will stop. And besides other things, this will give them a chance to slow down emotionally and think. So it gives everybody a chance to do that. And I watched a really great not YouTube, it was a TED Talk, saying that the 3 reasons, this guy was like an arbitrator, and he says usually it comes down to personal confidence, personal significance, or one other variable, essentially people basically feeling secure about themselves. So if you keep that in mind, you slow down the emotional part, you stand back, you give a gap, and you respond in the most appropriate way you can in the situation. That is probably the best and most universally powerful way to deal with the situation, even if it's like, maybe we need to pause and take a break, or maybe we should discuss this another day. So that's it for Crush It Club 133, how to balance feelings and reason. My name is Tim B. Green. Bye for now.